What's up, guys? Welcome back to Inside Out Precision. Today, the highly anticipated RX-5 is going to be shot and reviewed. We got these bows on Thursday, which of course happened to be my day off, so I didn't really get to play with them. And then it's a totally new cam system and everything, so I wanted to kind of mess around with it for a day or so and kind of get a feel for what it was actually doing before I did a review. So this is a couple days later than I would have liked, but hopefully we get you a good kind of in-depth review so you can decide if this is something you might want to pursue. So as usual, we're going to do technical specs, then run it through the chronograph, and there's a lot to look at on this new bow. So we're going to start with the technical side of things. So this is the RX-5, just the standard one. So this is 30 inches axle to axle. It has a 6 1/4 inch brace height, so about 1/4 inch longer than it was last year. It's 4.4 pounds physical weight, so they did beef this up a little bit. You know, some people are saying, well, what's the point of carbon if it's heavier? And really it's about the feel. You know, in cold weather, it doesn't conduct that cold as much, so it feels warm to the touch, even though eventually it will get cold, but much slower than aluminum riser will. And this one, so the draw length on this will go from 25 to 30 inches, but there's two different modules. So in years past, you've had like a number 2 and a number 3 cam on Hoyt bows, and they go to different lengths. And the whole point of that was efficiency. So for example, a number 2 cam maxed at 28, a number 3 cam, its shortest setting was 28, and a 2 cam at 28 shot faster than a 3 cam. Now with this new cam system, the draw lengths do not overlap. So this is their new HBX binary cam. So if you've noticed, they took away the split yoke on top. It's just a main string and 2 control cables. A lot of people have said Hoyt should be doing this for a while. I think they kind of did all they could do with their cam and a half system. They've had that since like 2000. I think like 2004 or something like that. So, and you may have noticed the last, you know, the RX-1 to RX-4, not a whole lot of difference in the cam system. A little bit different shape, a little different draw stop, but for the most part, I think they kind of, you know, exhausted all their options with the cam and a half. So this year they went with this binary cam. So kind of back to the draw length. Again, these draw lengths do not overlap. So the shorter one will go from 25 to 28. The longer one will go from 28 and a half out to 30. So if you are 28 and a half, you are kind of getting the short end of the stick there because you are going to be at the shortest setting and you don't have the option to go to the longest setting of the shorter module. But they do seem to be very efficient. Just kind of testing this, playing around with it, you know, the speeds we saw were pretty darn consistent and right up there with what, you know, it's rated at. So in addition to the rotating module here, which is nice to have because there's no longer the need for a bunch of different string lengths. Like a 2 and a 3 cam used to have different string lengths. Now it's all going to be one string length. But you may notice on the back side here, this little draw stop, very similar to like the PSE Evolve cam. I can actually change this between an 80 and an 85% let off. I don't need a different module. I just need to move this little draw stop here either out or in, and that will change my let off from 80 to 85. Seems to be a really smooth drawing cam as well as a smooth shooting cam. I think everything about this is kind of an upgrade in terms of the shootability of it. Again, these are right-handed, I'm left-handed, so I can get a decent feel for it, but it's definitely quieter, it's definitely smoother, and seems to have a really solid back wall. And I've actually got my buddy Trent, who's shot all these bows since the Carbon Defiant. He's shot Hoyt since 2015 or 2016, and he's gonna kind of give you his take on that before we do the speed test. So you may notice the riser is pretty similar to the RX-4 series, you know, a little bit different cutout. They did add on the bottom here, so you have 2 different options for stabilizer mounts here. It comes with this one that's got like 3 or 4 ounces. This is almost like the harmonic dampener that comes on the Matthews. The idea with this is that it keeps that center of gravity low. We were kind of playing around with this, and we actually swapped where the stabilizer and this little dampener went, and it seemed to hold even better that way. But it is cool that you have the option for 2 different mounts there with your stabilizer and your dampener. They do have the rear stabilizer mount here still, you know, right by the cable guard here. So for those of you who want to run a back bar, you can do that. And then the big thing that I've been getting a lot of questions on, and we haven't actually got to play with it yet, is this bow does not have it on it, but they make the new Piccatelli like inline sight mount that will actually, instead of the sight mounting on the side of your bow here, it will mount right on the front. Now, seems like a cool system. Again, we haven't got one with it yet to play with it. And the biggest thing is that, as far as I know, Excel and Fuse are the only two companies right now making a bracket that will adapt to that Piccatelli sight mount. Now, I don't know if that means that if I already have an Excel sight, I can just buy the base and attach it to an existing sight to attach to my bow, or if I have to actually buy a whole new sight. That remains to be seen. But this is also brand new that we just, you know, we don't know what we don't know, basically, is what it comes down to. But you will have that option to mount your sight to the front of the bow if you wish. What that exactly does, not totally sure, other than maybe being able to mount your quiver a little bit closer, but it seems like unless you're running their integrated rest, you know, if I mount a quiver directly to the riser here, it seems like my arrows would probably hit my rest. So that's all gonna be something, you know, that we're gonna have to play around with in the coming weeks once we get that stuff in. As far as looks go, this is their new color. So this is I can't remember what they call this, but it's a wilderness, yeah, the wilderness color. So it's kind of that, you know, OD green. They brought buckskin back as well, which I know a lot of people are pumped about. Same sort of kind of rough texture finish on it. So it looks like the same coating, just a new color. But definitely a slick looking bow. And it's got the same grip that the RX-1s had, which was by far and away my favorite grip that they've ever had. They no longer have the ability to shift it back and forth like they did on the RX-3 and RX-4. I don't really think that did a whole lot, so they just kind of did away with that. But definitely a sweet shooting bow, very stable, and seems to shoot really good speeds. So we got, as usual, a large array of arrows ranging from, like, you know, 520 down to 360 grains. So I'm gonna get the chronograph set up. And Trent's gonna go over a couple features that he likes about this and kind of just what he's found shooting it. And then we're gonna run it through the chrono and give you guys some speeds. So a couple things real quick about this cam system. People are probably gonna ask, you know, well, how do you tune it without the yokes? They do have a spacer kit in here, sort of like Matthews or pretty much any binary cam system. So again, like a Matthews, rather than moving my rest, I'm actually gonna shift this cam to the right or the left, depending on what my tear through paper is. So between the top cam and the bottom cam and the different size spacers, you should be able to find a combination to where you can get, you know, your left-right tear dialed into a bullet hole without having to actually move your rest. On top of that, I know people are saying, well, what's the advantage of a binary cam over like the cam and a half system? One is knock travel. There seems to be less knock travel with a binary cam system. The other is that because I don't have those split yokes on the outside of the limb here, if I do get some string stretch, it's not affecting the lean or the positioning of my cam. It might affect your timing a little bit, but that's a very easy thing to fix. And when you do get it back, your left-right tear shouldn't have changed at all. When that split yoke is on the outside of the limbs like that, just a little bit of stretch in one of those yokes, because it leverages that limb more being on the outside, it will actually affect the lean of that cam, thus changing your left-right tear through paper. So in theory, binary cams, once they're in tune, they stay in tune a little better. And then again, you know, I'm not actually leaning my cam, I'm shifting my cam right or left. That in turn puts a little more or less pressure on one of these limbs, kind of like a yoke system would. But again, everything is internal here. It's not split on the outside of the limbs here. So if there is a little string stretch, it is not going to affect, again, the lean or the position of that cam left and right. It's mostly just going to be affecting your timing, which, you know, half twist in one of these cables in the press, and you're back on. So with that said, this is my buddy Trent. He also works here at the bow rack. Again, he has shot these bows since the Defiant series. He played around with them a bunch the last couple days, so I'm gonna let him kind of talk about what he likes about this new bow and kind of how it compares to years past.
All right. So one of the things I've noticed between these is, so First of all, I'm like a 29, 20.5 inch draw depending on the bow. I typically like ultras a little bit better, but this year, I mean the standard RX-5 is definitely right up there with the ultra. I mean I can't really notice much of a difference between the two as far as which one holds better or the other. Really holds stable, even though this is a 30-inch axle compared to 34. And the other thing too is probably the biggest difference for guys that's going to have like a longer draw length is going to be with this one. The string angle is going to be definitely a little bit sharper. So as far as your anchor goes, you might have to dip your head down a little more to be able to touch tip your nose. But other than that, they're both really smooth. What I've noticed between like all of the RX series compared to these ones is that the draw cycle on them, it's different as far as how it's smooth, because like it's still really smooth. But personally, I think the Redwork series previously are a little bit smoother if you're going from pound for pound, but this one is smoother on how it transitions into the back wall. So on this one, I noticed when I draw back, it just pretty much gets smoother and smoother all the way into the back wall. But if I had the same poundage of like one of the RX3s or RX4s in the same exact like 70 pounds, comparing it, the way like the RX4 drew is when you draw back, it gets smooth kind of right at first, and then it will kind of start stacking up just a little bit. Then it'll break over into the back wall, which the back wall on these ones, on the RX-5, is definitely a lot more solid. I don't really feel any give on these, whether it's 85% or 80%. Typically, I like an 80%. I like to have a little more holding weight. It gives it a little more solid back wall. But these ones, it's still really solid. I noticed with the standard Redworks of the like RX1s and the RX3s and RX4s, if you got on the back wall and you pulled on it a little bit, it was a little bit spongy, and that's even when your timing was perfect. And so that's probably one of the biggest differences as far as how they hold. They're even more stable than years prior. One reason is that too is because you can put that stabilizer mount even lower, which that totally changes the bow on how it feels. So if you're going to shoot these, I would definitely try with the stabilizer in its normal position, and then you can even put a stabilizer lower here and try it. It definitely makes it hold on target a lot better because you're getting that weight a lot lower. And then other than that, like between the RX-5 and the RX-5 Ultra, I don't really notice compared to years past. Speed-wise, it's going to be right up there. They're not any slower, faster. We're still about the same as far as speed goes. I think that's pretty much everything.
Yeah. So basically, so you're saying like when this dumps into the back wall, it doesn't have as big of a it just doesn't dump as quick. It kind of rolls into that back wall a little smoother.
Correct.
Like the transition from peak poundage to full draw is a little smoother.
Yes. The other thing though, like if you're like, for example, on like the RX4s, those ones drawing, like if you had like the number 3 cam and you had it kind of shortened up, you're kind of on the bottom end of the 3 cam, that's going to feel smoother than what a number 2 cam would feel. This is kind of the same way as if you had the shorter module compared to the longer module. Whenever you do put the shorter module on this, for guys that are going to be kind of on the top end of the shorter module, it will feel stiffer of a draw cycle compared to the long module being on kind of the shorter end. But as you lengthen out that long module and start peaking that out, it's going to start stiffening up a little more compared to like having this at 28 compared to 30. At 28, it's going to feel definitely a lot smoother. So depending on where you land in draw length, you kind of will either be on the top end, or it's just still kind of feel normal, be a little stiffer once it. And where I'm meaning by how it feels stiffer is throughout the whole draw cycle, it kind of feels like you're pulling a little more weight, but it's still really smooth. There's no like choppiness or anything in the draw cycle. It doesn't like dump over into the back wall, which me personally I'm not a big fan of, just because you're drawing, you kind of don't draw, it just kind of dumps over. This you can pull just really smooth if you're trying to, in a hunting scenario, you're trying to draw really less movement, just really slow. You can control it. And so you can just kind of slowly draw that back. You don't have to worry about that value dumping over at all and trying to fight it. They can just go smoothly right into the back wall, which is really, really nice. But other than that, that pretty much sums it up. I mean, definitely, if you're a fan of the Redworks, I would definitely try both the RX-5 and the RX-5 Ultra out there. Pretty sweet.
And I will review the Ultra and the Ventums and all that in the coming days and weeks here. So we'll do all the speed tests. We're gonna do a speed test right now. Trying to think, he has one more thing to say, and then we'll sling some arrows.
So the other thing I noticed on these is, as far as hand shock goes, these are definitely a little quieter and a little less hand shock than years prior, but they have a little bit different feel as far as how hand vibration is. So with the like RX4s and RX1s and RX3s, those ones, when you shoot, you guys might notice like when that aftershock, it kind of feels like a little bit of like a waviness. These ones feel more kind of like a pop. So if you ever shot like an RX1 turbo or like an RX3 turbo or RX4 turbo, they have more feel like that as far as how it kind of hits that pop into your hand, but it's very dead right after that. It's only for a second.
So it's more of a thump as opposed to like a residual vibration.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So cool. So as usual, we're gonna do a speed test at 30 inches. I got arrows from 510 down to 352. So we're gonna do a speed test at 30, then take it to 28 and give you guys an idea of kind of what speeds you can expect out of this thing. Okay, so this first arrow, this again, 70 pounds, 30 inches, 85% let off. This first arrow comes in right at, well, 508, so almost 510. So yeah, get going here. $277. Next arrow is going to be 485. $290. So that's a very real world arrow weight, anywhere in that 485 to 510. So that's really good speeds. 290 with a 485 grain arrow is cooking. So this arrow is 440 grains. 302. Definitely an efficient cam. This next arrow is, oh, that's the really light one. That one is 452. Or sorry, 352. $334. So definitely cooking. Okay, so now we're gonna drop that draw length down to 28, and we're gonna shoot those same arrows again and kind of compare speeds. Okay, so we got it changed to 28 inches. So keep in mind, both of these draw length settings, it's at the top end of each module. So the shorter module goes from 25 to 28. So we're at the longest setting on the shortest module here. And so, if you're at 28 and a half inches, it might actually, even though it's a half pound or a half inch longer, it'll probably shoot pretty similar speeds to the 28 because you're at the shortest setting of the longer module as opposed to the longest setting of the shorter module. So same arrows, 70 pounds, 85%, 28 inches. So first arrow is 508 grains. $270. Wow. That's crazy considering that it was 277 at 2 longer inches. So that's efficient. This next arrow is 485 grains. 274. So it's definitely efficient with a heavy arrow. Like there's not a huge jump, even though that was, 22 grains heavier or lighter. Next arrow is 440. 284. And then this is the Speed Demon. This is a 352 grain arrow. For those of you who might use this as a 3D bow. 316. So probably the biggest takeaway from that is that's 2 full inches in draw length shorter, and you'll notice that those speeds were not a whole lot different, to be honest, which is crazy how efficient that cam is at the shorter draw lengths with heavy arrows. For a 28-inch draw shooting 270 feet a second, that opens up a lot of doors for you guys who might have a little bit shorter draw length but want to shoot a heavier arrow, especially for, you know, if you're elk hunting, moose hunting, any large boned big animal. You're gonna be able to throw a heavy arrow at really good speed still and get some great penetration out of it. So I'm really impressed with that. I was honestly not expecting it to be that efficient at that shorter draw length. So I think that cam, especially compared to years past, you know, the former RX series did not even come close to those speeds with arrows that heavy. So that's really, really impressive. I think it's encouraging that this new cam system is incredibly efficient, and I think this is going to be a major hit with the archery community. So if you haven't already, I know that a lot of shops are just starting to get the bows, but get down to your Hoyt dealer, pick one of these things up and send some arrows through it. You will not be disappointed. If you have any questions, as usual, hit that comment section below. We really appreciate all the support. Also, one more little plug. I have like 5 of these gray and white inside out precision hats left. So hop over to Instagram. If you DM us which hat you want, we will send you a PayPal link. All your shipping information will be on there and we'll get you a hat. I know a lot of people are just starting to get them. We've been shipping them for the last week or so, and everything seems to be running smoothly. When we're out of these, which like I said, I think we have like 4 or 8 of them left or something. I do have 100 more coming, but it's probably gonna be a couple weeks. So yeah, if you need one, get over there. First come, first serve, and we will put when we're sold out on Instagram. That way we're not stacking up back orders. So thanks for watching, guys. Remember, precision is a decision. Keep them in the middle, and I'll see you on the range.